Danny on the beat, boy.
Welcome to another live episode of Halftime Adjustments. This is your host, Eddie Arnell, my man G Witt, Mr. J. Lou. What's going on, gentlemen? Man, I'm going to have to change my intro, man, because the King is no longer part of the Tennessee Titans, man. We'll change the intro, get a new intro for the J. Lou. You with us, man? Okay, well, we've been having some technical difficulties before coming on, man. But thank y'all again for joining us for another episode tonight, man. Free Agent Frenzy 2024 season is upon us officially for the Tennessee Titans. New regime, new look. I think J. Lou, you there? I guess he's still.
Like he's frozen.
Yeah, he's going to come back. But anyway, so let's get into it tonight. G, man, a lot of moving pieces going into this offseason. Knew that we had a lot of areas of need. A lot of fans out there upset about some of the moves that were made and some that weren't made. Your opinion? Let me see here. Here's J. Lou. Let me get him back in. But your opinion, G. Witt, man, give me one off-season move so far that's the most important going into this 2024 season for you.
Oh, okay. Well, cool. That's easy for me. Is actually Lord Cushenberry.
Okay.
That I've been saying it. I said it all before the season even ended.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one area, one position we need to address. It was a position of need. I like the fact they went in and got a good guy who's rated high in the pass protection, as well as still solid in run blocking, and is able to anchor that offensive line because that's exactly what we've been missing. Aaron Brewer, yeah, he's athletic, he was fast and everything, but he was good at run blocking. He just was horrible at pass blocking. You compare the rating. I mean, Aaron Brewer was 52.5 pass block rating, and Cushenberry is like 76.4.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm looking at, and that's what we needed more than anything. And then I just think that one position, getting that center sign in the building, was definitely the missing piece for that offensive line, which still has to be worked on. But man, that was the one piece I was glad to see.
Yeah, J. Lou, what about you, man? I mean, what is it? What is it for this offseason so far, man? For the free agency moves that have got you really excited for this 2024 season?
So mine's not going to be a player that you would think like that. G. Witt had a good one. My free agent is almost a 2-for-1, and that's that you re-sign restricted free agents Morgan Cox and my kicker just slipped my name.
Nick Folk.
Nick Folk.
Yep.
As much, and again, literally when you look at it, this team has so many holes, and special teams, I think, is one thing that we all three on here could agree with was by far when you look at your kicker, your long snapper, and your punter until he got his leg blown off. They all were that unit you could count on, and to be able to have those three back in the fold again, to me, that's one of the most underrated signings of free agency because you don't want to go without a long snapper. We've seen, I mean, G. Witt, what has it been the last 3 years before we got Folk that we've seen the nightmares of kicking? So to me, to be able to solidify that, and again, I was worried because they did allow Folk to test air quote free agency, but he wasn't out there long. So I really think when you look at it, you got to look at some of those underrated ones for this team, and I think that's one. Morgan Cox and Folk, especially Morgan Cox coming back, I think that's one of the most underrated signings to kind of shore up a need on your team.
Yeah, and to think about the horrific seasons we had with kickers, man, it seems like forever that it was always a kicking issue. And so to your point, to both of your points, you get a center that's actually a center-sized body, 6'4", 315.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the pass blocking grade, which was third among centers. His pressure rate was third among centers at 2.3%. And so you can't go wrong either way. I'm gonna say, and this might be the most obvious one. Of course, this is Calvin Ridley, and I bring it up for a reason because I got people asking about it already in the chat. So you have two route technicians, right? Two route technicians now. You got one with speed. It's the difference, right? DeAndre Hopkins is not slow. Don't get me wrong, but you got a Calvin Ridley that can stretch the field. Can run all kind of routes, man, and then I just think just an explosive player. And and to quote him, he said he's 29 on paper.
Yeah.
But in the real world, he's 25. That's one of the best quotes, man.
Ever.
Best quotes, man. Man, continue to come on in, man. What's up, Will Dotson? He's joining us tonight, man. Dion Bonner and Lamonte, man. Welcome back to y'all. Here's one of the questions already, fellas. Will says, do we think we overpaid for Ridley? A lot of people are saying that. J. Lou, this is your specialty, man. Break down the contract for them so they can hit for you.
So it depends on what you consider as an overpayment. I don't think so. I think they paid him what the market was. When you look at it, and I'll tell everybody on here, and we chatted. We talked all week long. Don't look at the numbers that first come out. So I think when it first came out, it said Ridley 4 years, 92 million, 50 million guaranteed.
Right.
You want to look at the signing bonus, what the cap hit is, and how it's structured. And when you start looking at Ridley's contract, it's basically a 2-year deal that they can get out. This team friendly to get out after 2 years without taking on a lot of dead money. The one thing I've been intrigued by with this staff last year and again this year, and I've literally been mentioning it, I think every time we chat, is how they're using the cap the correct way. You don't see them doing a lot of restructures. You saw them caught, so everybody was wondering, are we gonna cut Andre Dillard and have him a post June 1st? Now they ate that dead cap right then and there because you got the money and there's no need in mortgage in the future. So I think Ridley and when you look at it, I challenge you to just go look at all the receivers who are, now that the new league year has started, all the receivers that are eligible to be paid now, he probably will slide between 10 and 15 when it's all said and done. So, and I think that fits right in where he's at. So to get somebody who by far without a trade, because everybody was talking about Higgins and they forgot that, I think we mentioned it, Higgins was going to be franchise tag, to get somebody who was actually available, who was by far the number one receiver on the, as a free agent, I think you had to pay a little bit more to get him here. And I'll tell you this, I know he really wanted to go back to Jacksonville. If you listen to his press conference, there's some things there. But one thing that I kept mentioning to folks, no state income tax plays a lot to some of these players when you start talking about these big contracts. Right. And it came between the Jaguars and the Titans, and both states, no state income tax, and the Titans sweeten the pot a little bit. So, no, I don't think it was an overpay. I think we're just paying what the market allowed.
Yeah, and I agree with that because I thought the same thing. I think a lot of people, I'm just laughing at the people who are trying to compare it to the A.J. Brown trade that John Roberts. I'm like, dude, you got to recognize we got two separate GMs on this deal, and I think they did a good job bringing them in. And I will say, after Cushenberry, that's one I do like as well because I think as a route runner, he's excellent, got great hands, good speed. But and I think the speed side of it is what I really like about it because it tends to take a lot of pressure off of DeAndre Hopkins. It's going to take a lot of pressure off the running game, which is going to be needed. And I think he'll do a great job. My biggest concern really about him, in all honesty, even though he says, I'm 29 on paper, but I'm 25 as far as my body's concerned, which kind of plays true since he set out basically 2 years.
Yeah.
But you just want to make sure he stays healthy. Got to bring that up, dealing with our past history these past 3 seasons. So we'll just wait and see. They got a whole new crew as far as that's concerned. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with him and D-Hop on the field at the same time and possibly Treylon Burks playing the slot.
We'll get some more comments in, man. Darius Williams, man, tighten up. Man, welcome to the show. Big K. Lou in the building. Tighten up, man. It's a good statement here by Boston Titan, man. For a team that had nothing to receive, we paid what the market, and the Jags years ago overpaid. That's right, Christian Kirk. I remember they blew up that receiver market, man, and kind of had things going on. Darius Williams says, what about Chase Young? So it's interesting that you bring him up, and so we can go ahead and talk about that. Of course, a first-round draft pick, right? Got some talent, got some issues with showing some non-hustle. It's definitely the playoffs of last season. Didn't see that in Washington as much. But I mean, you got it on tape. People saw it, and it is what it is. Now, sometimes a change of scenery is needed for folks. But if you could get him for the cheap, a first round
Oh,
talent
yeah.
that's got
Yeah.
some talent that can rush the passer. So if you look at his run rate, his pass rush rate, he was better than Audrey, Key, and I guess Harold Landry in some aspects
Yeah.
combined. So I mean, you get him. He's 24 years old, and why
Yeah.
not kick the tires on him, right? And see what you could do with him. But yeah, I think if they can get him for the cheap, definitely bring him in and line him up opposite of Harold Landry and let him just do his thing, right?
Yeah, no, I'd agree because what you don't want, and I think, and the reason I'm more in line of bringing him in, and again, probably a 1-year deal, prove it, etc. I see somebody already put it as a Clowney part 2. Yes, there's some opportunities that it could be
Good,
that, but
right.
I say you kick the tires because of this. To me, and we saw it last year, Arden Key is not to play the opposite of Landry to me. Arden Key to me is better as a role player spelling them, not to be your starter, if that makes sense. So if you have him and Young opposite of Landry and just rotating them in, I think you can see a better version of Arden Key as opposed to giving him as many snaps as we did last year. And again, that was a knock on him all off season, right? Was, how would he take on this heavier role? But I think he fits perfectly in like a situational type deal, being opposite of Landry as opposed to starting.
Well, and to go along with all of that, I talked to my boy from DC who had pretty much an inside track on his and watching him and everything. The one thing he brought up that I really forgot about is that last year, his first year coming back off of that ACL, and that could have played a part in his play. I'm not, and again, like I said, we saw it in the playoffs. Again, he didn't. It looked like a Clowney 2.0 when in the playoffs, but I agree with you. You take a 1-year flyer on him, give him an opportunity, give him to prove it, and you go from there. And I think he could still he could help you. It's just going to be a matter of if you can get the best out of him in that defense. That's going to be the key. But he tends. I would say this: the one thing I didn't like about him, he tends to take plays off, and that just bothers me when you're out there on the field. And you even saw it in the playoffs in the Super Bowl as well. I mean, pursuit was a hard thing to see out of him. So again, could be the knee. I think it's worth a flyer on a 1-year flyer on him, definitely.
So let's take a look at some of the other free agents we signed. Sadiq Charles, another offensive lineman, provide depth, right? 6'4", 321. He has played some guard. He's played some tackle. He did play with Cushenberry at LSU, blocked for Joe Burrow on that national championship team. And so, a depth piece, right? Can't never have enough offensive linemen to fill in. So let's talk about this one as well. Mason Rudolph, very interesting. He's had his ups and downs in Pittsburgh. He actually came in and played pretty good last year when Pickett got hurt, and took over the job for a while. But G. Whit, man, what do you think about Mason Rudolph? Is this the end of Malik or?
Well, in all honesty, I think Malik is definitely in his going into his third year. He's definitely in that. The GM is looking at, you got to prove it. You're going to have to prove it. And like I said, last year he definitely did not. He has an opportunity, but Mason Rudolph definitely, I thought that was a good pickup. I gave it a B simply because I know he can be a solid backup. Mm-hmm. We saw that when he played in Pittsburgh. He came in, they actually went on a winning streak to try to almost make the playoffs and everything, or make the playoffs.
Right.
But I definitely think that he's a guy that could come in. And again, you're talking about a change of scenery. It might be best for him as far as a change of scenery is concerned as well. But he could be, for lack of a better term, a Neil O'Donnell to your Steve McNair as far as him and Will Levis is concerned. So I think he can be a solid backup. He does have his flaws, but I think he can be a solid backup. And again, I think the thing you have to like about him is the fact that he's young. He's only, going into his 7th year in the league. Arm is still live. And he's fairly accurate with his throws. So there's a possibility he could do some good things. But again, the hope is that they fix this offensive line and we never have to see him. He becomes a clipboard holder and help out in the quarterback room. But if they fix the offensive line and Will Levis can make it through the full season, I don't hate that pickup. I think it's actually a good one.
Yeah, so J. Lou, another question for you, man. Of course, it's got to be incentive laden for Chase Young,
Oh
anybody.
yeah,
So one thing you got to agree with, and you've already mentioned it, J. Lou, is that this front office, they are very skilled in the way they structure their contracts and the languages. Because you see a 4-year deal, for instance, like you said, really, but it's really a 2-year deal they can get out of and not take a
yeah.
lot of cap hit, man. But go ahead and
And,
talk a little bit about that question, that statement there.
and what they doing on these contracts and continue to look at the majority of them are front loaded. Again, as we've been saying, this is probably we said it was a 3-year rebuild. 1 year, year one should have been last year.
Right.
So if you look at these contracts, a lot of the big free agents we got, even what did he say? Call himself Cheeto. I think that's what he said. Call him the DB. Even if you look at their contracts, a lot of theirs are front loaded on these first 2 years. Where year three, you got an out, or if not, if year three of their contract, if Levis is who you think he is, you still free yourself up to have money to build around him. So that's the good thing that I like about what they're doing with these contracts. I agree. I think to go back on the one that was asked about overpaying earlier. I think when you look at the linebacker like Jerome Baker, you saw that was 1 year, $7 million. I text y'all when I knew he was going to visit Seattle and he left here. I said, yeah, we didn't sign him. And, you don't know if they saw something on his medicals or if it goes back to that, hey, we're going to be smart with our money and go somewhere else. Because I will keep this in mind. And it was brought up a couple of things about rolling Key into a 4-3. You got to remember, they never really said what this base defense was.
Right.
If you go back and look at the press conference, I think it was Paul K that asked or something, where somebody mentioned like a 5-1-5 defense.
I saw that.
That might be just, when you think about the type of defense he wants to run with attacking, and again, as a Titan fan, I'm freaking out because I think it's Big Jeff and the Misfits up front. Yeah. But if you want to try to be more attacking, you do need some big bodies for the run, but if you want to be more attacking and covering, again, you got to remember, majority of base offenses right now are 3 wide receiver anyway. Yeah. So that flips that. So I'm interested. That linebacker position has me more interested, especially seeing what we've done in free agency so far. Now, again, it's a long free agent season, but what we've done so far, and before we even get to the draft, it has me wondering, does he look more for those hybrid type linebackers that could be safety plus just from a coverage standpoint?
So just look at what he did in Baltimore. Of course, you had Patrick Queen and you had Smith, but Kyle Hamilton played in the box more than any safety I can think of. Yes. You think about the places where he blitzed from. And so to your point, we could very well see that here. Somebody mentioned a 4-2-5, and I think Monte, so that's a nickel formation. So you got to think about that as we move along, depending on the players that they bring in the draft and the rest of free agency. Tony Pollard, man, this is one I really like too. That I was going to mention outside of Calvin Ridley. 6 foot 215, man, explosive. Back-to-back 1,000 seasons, nearly over 55 receptions last year, over 40, almost 40 the year before that. And so, J. Lou, man, an explosive player, a weapon out of the backfield. If you hadn't seen any of his highlights of pass block, you need to look that up, man, because he is an outstanding pass protecting running back. So, J. Lou, what do you think about Tony Pollard, man?
Yeah, I think Tony Pollard is going to give the Titans something we haven't seen in the last 5 years, and that's unpredictability on offense. And I say that to say you can't switch. It doesn't matter which running back you got on the field. Your offense is going to stay the same all 3 downs. You talked about it when we were mentioning back and forth about, I think he was ranked 3rd in pass blocking for running backs last year, which, again, when you look at Dallas, they were top 5. You think about Dallas and you think they're a passing team. So to get 1,000 yards from that, and again, as G. Whip pointed out earlier, he was coming off injury. You got to remember he broke his foot or whatever in a playoff game. Yeah. I think so. Just going through the injury. So usually year 2 removed from injury, he's got an off season this year where he's not dealing with recovery or whatnot. And again, I just think that he's going to be a nice complement to Spears. We know he can run between the tackles. When you saw how that Dallas offense struggled when he came off the field, especially in that playoff game, when I think about that. But I really like it. And again, it just gives you another weapon and another way for Callahan to be able to scheme up mismatches, because you have basically 2 dynamic running backs that are receivers out of the backfield. Now, let alone running the ball between the tackles, but receiving. And again, I think that's what this team's going to rely on a little bit more. I look at it as one thing we complained about last year, that I think we complained about the last 2 or 3 years. What Spears and what a Pollard gives you to kind of mask the offensive line issues, I think we'll see a lot more short passes. And those guys can make 1 or 2 guys miss an open field and take it to the house. So I'm very excited about that signing.
Yeah, I mean, it's different makeup at the running back position, something we hadn't had in, 8 years with the King being here and being the workhorse. And so definitely new regime, new era of football. And let's move on. So we'll talk about Cheeto, a Awuzie. But G Whip, man, go ahead and talk about Cheeto, man.
Chidobe Awuzie. That's how you pronounce his name. I had to keep listening to the press conference to make sure I get it right. Because, with a last name like Whittington, you want to make sure you pronounce people's names right. But anyway, I like this signing because, again, it's somebody who's fairly solid in the pass game as far as a cornerback is concerned, and gives us a little bit more stability over there. I don't know what's going to happen with McCreary, whether they're going to try to play him outside and see if he can do that. We've all thought that McCreary was better served playing the nickel. But I think this guy, really, he's solid. He's he came off an injury, kind of lost his starting job to DJ Ward, but we'll just have to see how he plays here. Change of scenery. Again, we're talking about somebody who's excited to be here, who is definitely a hard worker, knows how to tackle. That's the main thing that I really like about him, because, again, I'm sick and tired of seeing us have corners who have opportunity to make tackles, whether receivers or running backs, but won't stick their helmet in there, So, but anyway, I think he's a good pickup. I gave it a B as far as the signing was concerned. And I think that this guy is going to be a good cover corner for us, and it's going to help out a whole lot as far as even with the running game and the passing game especially. Doesn't get a lot of turnovers, though. Doesn't get a lot of turnovers. And I got no problems if you're doing a lot of pass breakups. I got no problems with that. I mean, but at the same time, it makes me interested to see how they're going to use them, because the one thing that we know that Rand has been talking about, Callahan was talking about, and we may be seeing it happening. We see it happening on the offensive line. They're definitely pulling the coaches in and talking to them about who they want. So obviously the secondary coach and as well as the DC had a voice in picking up this guy. So I'm interested to see how they're going to use him.
Yeah, it's he's an aggressive man cover corner, and so to your point, Denard Wilson, he wants to play an aggressive defense. He said that dog, that acronym that Jay Lee was talking about.
Yes.
And so yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be fun to see. And we said you guys mentioned it earlier. This is gonna be a 1 to 2 year project. Don't think the Titans will be contenders this year. I'm not saying they won't be. I'm not saying they will be, but there's still a lot of holes on this football team, especially in the linebacker position, the D-line position, which we'll talk about here in just a few more minutes. But you like what they're doing, where they're headed, and you can see the overall thinking of what kind of players they want on this team. Boston Titans, let me get this out there. He says, who's going to do the Kit Kat and Pollard or Spears throw? That's a good question, man. That's a great question, man. And then let me get another. Oh, here's another underrated re-signing. It's Julius Chestnut. I like what Deion says. We re-signed him and gives us a thumper type runner, which we still needed, in his opinion. You saw Julius Chestnut when he wasn't hurt, when he did run the ball. He can run between the tackles.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's got some power.
And don't sleep on, my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off here. Don't sleep on Haskins is still on this team.
Yeah.
He was put on IR early in the season, had some off-field issues that got squared away, thankfully. And it was dealing with an injury. So, I mean, you still got him coming back in his third year. So I'm curious when we talk about coaching. I think the one thing we kept mentioning about that previous coaching staff was just the development of young players. You got, that running back field outside of Pollard, that's a very young core group of running backs. So I'm interested to see just our coaching at certain levels, how they coach these players up.
Right. And so Kenneth Murray. So 6'2", 242. I think this is a very interesting pickup. Not very according to his stats, right? And his knack is his pass coverage could use some work. But the guy's a heat-seeking missile on the blitz.
Yeah.
So he can run. He's a 4'4" guy, 242 pounds. I mean, you just can't get linebackers that size and that fast.
Yeah, solid tackle too.
Right, 107 tackles last year, 7 for loss, 3 sacks, interception. So this is what I've been wanting. I couldn't wait till we had this show. So we all, 3 of us on this show, talk about having coaches that will coach your players up. Here is an example of somebody that needs to be coached up in the pass game, right, G? Yeah. I mean, can we coach? Can Frank Bush? He's got his work cut out because this guy, I don't want to call him a project, but he still got some work to do to develop, right? He's been in the league for what, 4 years, I believe.
Yeah.
And so year 5, man, let's do something with this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Frank Bush. Yeah, he does have his problem is, again, it's in pass coverage. I mean, and that's something I think that can be worked on to where he can actually be decent in it. You know, you're not looking for somebody who's going to be fantastic, but he can be solid in it and give you some help. But the thing I like about it is that he's a thumper, and he's heavy in pursuing on the run game. Yeah. Now, again, that's going to take some coaching as well, because sometimes he's guilty of over pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the misdirections will get him sometimes. But at the same time, I think you got a good guy who's solid, who can be coached up and can be trained to, as far as knowing what to look for and making sure he's making the right decisions when he's out there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do from him. Again, I like his size. I like the fact that he's solid in the run game. I always, I look for that first in linebackers.
Oh, so we'll keep moving on. What happened to G Witt? But yeah. So Kenneth Murray, J. Lou, man. I mean, dude.
So I envision again. Yeah, I think pass coverage. I mean, when you saw him play against the Titans week 2 last year, with 10 tackles and a sack, whatnot. He's all over the field when he's flying. I envision, again, thinking about what we know Denard wants to run on his defense and how they want to be fast attacking and blitzing. Can you imagine him and Otis Reese?
Somebody mentioned Otis Reese.
Both heat-seeking missiles coming at you. So I would agree. Frank Bush has definitely got his work cut out for him to be able to get him coached up in the pass game. But I envision, and I'm looking forward to hopefully this becoming fruition, him on blitzes, because we've been complaining about how we were blitzes and how we structured those. And you've got somebody between him and Otis Reese that see ball, get ball is how they play. Yeah. So I definitely look forward to that. And again, I think it's an underrated signing. I heard a lot of comparisons from Titans, some Titans media and Titans folks that said this is what was your boy from Alabama? Rashad Evans 2.0.
Yeah.
Rashad Evans 2.0. So again, I think you got the coaches that it can get that out of him. And to G Witt's point, and to yours as well, we know that this staff in this front office, they're taking input from the coaching staff on who they bring in. So this has got to be a guy that Frank Bush and Denard are both eager to work with.
Man, I tell you, like I said, you just can't get that size and speed.
No.
I mean, I think this is another good pickup for the Titans. And like you said, like we've been talking about the whole show so far, you see where they're going: athletic, speed, changing the makeup of this team for the good as hope anyway. And so another underrated free agent signing, man, as bad as we talk about him, and we did talk about him in the past, how he doesn't have any speed, but Mr. Reliable, NWI, you're going to make the big catch for you in traffic, come up with the key third down reception, G Witt, man. And NWI back for another season.
Hey, man, look, the thing about NWI that you have to like, again, we said it when we was texting back and forth, even though he doesn't have much speed, he's a solid route runner, catches the ball when it's thrown to him. And again, he's going to be in his element because with the signing of Calvin Ridley, you got D-Hop, you got Burks. You look at it at NWI going back to being no higher than a third receiver. So The thing we know about NWI, he's really not a starter.
Mm-hmm.
He's better served coming off playing in the 3 wide, 5 wide, whatever the situation is, and he's going to get you the first down yardage.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing you do like about him. So I'm not after signing Ridley, I'm not upset about NWI getting re-signed. It's good to have some depth in that wide receiver room, and I think again he's a solid player. You know, he's just not. He's not going to be that superstar player you want that's going to have a breakout year and have 1,000 yards in receiving.
Yeah, I like something that Lamonte put in earlier. He said the run game is not going to ever change with this 1-2 punch because you got similar backs, right? You got both backs can catch, both backs can come out of the backfield and run outside, run between the tackles. We saw that from from Spears last year, and even Chestnut as well. And so, you like what's going on with this team. And I think it was Dion that said we haven't seen what what he saw from Oilers with the run and shoot for a while. We're starting to get some receivers that can make a difference in the pass game, like G would just mention. And so we'll see what happens, man. The new regime, new philosophy. It's gonna be interesting to see once the preseason can't get here quick enough. By the way, so let's go on. It's another comment I want to talk about because somebody's asking a question, and I'm trying to go back to see where it was. Say, what do we do at pick number 7, guys? And so J. Lou, we kind of talked about this between the three of us before. What do we do at 7? Here we are in free agency. There hadn't been a lot of movement just yet. The L'Jarius Sneed thing is still out there. They're like, oh, he's going to the coast now. Let's breaks on that. The Baker goes to somewhere else. There's nobody coming in for the defensive line. Jordan Phillips is still out there. We talked about that. But what do we do at 7, J. Lou? We all had a kind of a different opinion on this earlier during the week. Just going to see if that's changed now to get one of the questions answered in the chat, man. So number 7 pick overall, J. Lou. We saw the Vikings trade up, get some clout.
Yeah, so I just I'm sure my answer is gonna change in another week or two
because it changed the last show.
Yeah, it changed from the last show. So I have to give you 2.
Okay.
If the board falls as I think it falls, then I think the obvious is Joe Alt, who they think is the best tackle at 7.
Right.
However, if the board falls as these rumors think, if you trade out, you trade no further than 11. You've got to still be in the top 11 because you need a certified dog to start day one, so like a blue chip player. And I think you're still capable of doing that at 11. The interesting piece becomes if by some chance, some miracle, there's 4 quarterbacks to go in the top 6, then you have an opportunity to get a top tier tackle or still top receiver. And again, I know that we just got Ridley. I know you got D-Hop, etc. But I think about where Callahan just came from. They literally drafted Chase the year that they should have went lineman. And you heard the coach say he values folks that can score touchdowns. At this point, if you draft one of those game-changing receivers, you got a year left with D-Hop. He's not under contract through this year. Now you've got Ridley for a few. Why not get you one of those guys that could come in, learn from both of those veterans, and still be a playmaker when you supposedly figured that majority of your offense is going to be 3 wide. So if somebody like a Marvin Harrison started to slip past that 4 or 5 spot, that's kind of hard, man. It becomes, do you solidify an offensive lineman spot that you hope is locked up for the next 10 years with left tackle that's been killing you? We can all agree to that. It's been destroying your team the last couple of years. Or do you go with a generational talent at playmaker that can score touchdowns as well? So if you had to put foot to the fire today, I'm going offensive lineman. But that's just today.
G Witt, what you say?
So
G was changing already from the old days.
No,
He's rethinking. Go ahead.
I'm not rethinking. I was just getting to the list because I was trying to see what all is out there. And you look at it from everybody who's in front of us. Chicago's taking a QB.
Right.
You just don't know which one. Washington, probably the same thing. They're going to take a QB. The Patriots, they're in the same position.
Yep.
QB.
That's three. That's
Uh,
three.
Now Arizona might pass because they got
Receipt.
receiver.
Mhm.
That you might see Marvin Harrison Jr. go there. Then you got the Chargers. You know they're going to go receiver. Because they didn't let the two main receivers go. Then you got the New York Giants. That's the wild card.
That's the wild card.
Yeah.
Because the Giants may go quarterback because they now realize that Daniel Jones ain't the man. They paid the wrong guy.
They paying him a lot of money to be
They
not
paid
the
him-
man.
Yeah, pay him a lot of money. Then you got us, the Falcons, Chicago again. And Chicago might be a trade partner. They might want to move up again. Because again, you talking about a team, we talking about us rebuilding. Chicago's in a total rebuild as well. So you just never know. Really, I think if we do have to pick a 7, we definitely pick a tackle. My thing is, I'm just debating between Alt and the tackle from Penn State.
Mhm.
I like the tackle from Penn State. So, but that's why I think we should go. But again, there's a lot in here, man. There's some people, because you got people behind us. The Jets are going to be looking for a QB. The Vikings, Broncos will be looking for a QB. Raiders, there's a lot of teams looking for quarterbacks this season. Bottom line, some of them might think they're in a position to, work it out. Maybe they got the veteran president that can wait another year. But, Caleb Williams, you got Daniels, you still got J.J. McCartney. Even though people are not too high on him, the thing about J.J. McCartney that you have to like is he's a competitor. He's a baller.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be interesting to see. But, yeah, if we're at 7 and we have to make a pick, yeah, I'm still sticking with offensive line because we need a tackle.
Yeah.
Who has the best about that?
Yeah. And Lamonte, you said it right for Shanu. I like him too. More athletic than Alt. You
Yes.
gotta, I'm sure Bill Callahan has a very good input on which one he wants at 7. But and I'm like Eddie Gray. He put, if Harrison is there at 7, it's hard to pass that up, man. It's just hard to pass him up. If he's there at 7, and I know we need to build an offensive line. Don't get me wrong, but there's so many. I think about the guy out of Houston, man, the tackle.
Yes.
Paul. There's another one that you can get in the 7th round at 38 if you want to go tackle. But I really think they trade back. I think Minnesota trades up. They pick up some clout and maybe have some maneuvering ability if they want to. It's hard for me to pass up Marvin Harrison at 7. But if he's not there, I go Alt and I come back in the 2nd round and I go Swift, the D tackle out of Texas, in the 2nd round because we need some defensive linemen.
Oh, yeah.
Jeffrey Simmons and Jeffrey Simmons.
Jeffrey
Right?
Simmons.
Yeah.
Unless you bring back Pop-Tart.
Right. One thing about that Minnesota trade, because more than likely you get both of their first if they come up. If that happens, then my scenario I see for that is the 11th or whatever it is, their first one would probably be your 3rd offensive tackle. I think they go offensive tackle first. That 23rd pick, mark it down. That'd be your starting cornerback.
Hey,
that'd be your starting DB.
Like that. I like
that'd
that.
be your starting DB.
I really do like that too.
That would be your starting DB.
And again, I'm not down on that, and because we definitely need help there too. But if you trade back and you get Minnesota's 2 first-round picks at 11, then yeah, I say you get an offensive tackle at 11, and then I still would try it. And I'm going to be honest about it. I like that DT from Texas, man. Yeah. I like that boy. I just think that pairing him up with Jeffrey Simmons would be like pairing Jarrell Casey and Jeffrey Simmons if Jarrell Casey was still in his prime.
Well, either one of them. You got Swift and you got Murphy. Murphy is 2nd.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Either one. It's like putting is we might get to see what I was hoping to see when we got Jeffrey Simmons and Jarrell Casey finally got healthy. Was healthy. Then Simmons got healthy, and you saw what they did in the playoffs. Then all of a sudden now, they trade. J-Rob trades Jarrell Casey the next year. And of course, he gets hurt in Denver and all that kind of stuff. But you're talking about something that's going to light up an offensive line. Two strong defensive tackles like that will take care of business.
You're right, Dion. I can't disagree with you. You said you gotta make repairs to the house before you get you a fancy new car,
No,
man.
that's true.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. That's why it's fun to discuss, man. As we go along, because we just don't know what the thinking is on the inside. We can only go by what they say and what they've done so far in free agency. So yeah, man, y'all keep those comments coming. Appreciate y'all supporting the show tonight. Virgil says he thinks Denver is the team that'll want to come up and trade up with us. I mean, it's a lot of people there that needs quarterbacks. Now more than ever seems like this season.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of quarterbacks out there to go after of. And so deep receiver class, deep tackle class.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of things to help fix this team this offseason that could be done. And so, yeah, man, it's good. It's good. It's interesting to see how this, and I'm not saying the Titans are going to be in on a Jerry Sneed. I just want to see how it's going to fall out because there's still a lot of things going on. There's still a few players out there for linebackers that could be brought in because we do need somebody said a Mike linebacker. We do need a Mike linebacker.
Yes.
We need somebody else. If you get, especially you got a bigger linebacker that can take on a run. I'm not saying Murray can't because he is a good tackler and he can pursue. He's got the speed to run sideline to sideline, but he needs a running mate. Otis Reese, if he can put on 50 pounds and keep that speed, more power to him. So
I'm still going to put it on 30 pounds, man.
I know. I'm just exaggerating a little bit, but yeah. Man, Rick and Smith, man, appreciate you coming on tonight, man. He was looking forward to the show, man. Appreciate you coming and joining us tonight. Lamonte, it's gonna be they're gonna have to keep Herbert up. So San Diego, LA is gonna have to look at some offensive line, but some receivers too, right?
Yeah.
So
both of their main receivers are gone. So
right.
So that's gonna be huge.
Right. Yeah. Shire.
I was surprised by that one.
Yeah.
I wasn't because again, he was a free agent. Shire bet on himself and played himself into a better contract. And it goes back to when you talk about overpaying, that there's a reason the main team that I thought that he would have went to was San Francisco because he just came from there. You saw Greenwood get hurt, etc. They didn't pay for him because they didn't want to hit that number. So again, more power to them because I'm all about the players getting their money.
Yeah.
But I think that's a prime example of one of these ones where, okay, we're going to see if we can go younger, go somewhere different where we don't have to allocate money there from that standpoint.
And I think another thing that probably sold them on going to Houston, too, was the Nico Ryans, man. That was a huge part of it, They want to play in that defense and everything. So, that's what I want to see.
A lot of those.
He's at a team that's, when you're looking at it like that, you're at a team that the Houston Texans are the 2021 Bengals. They got a rookie who they hit on. You got a rookie contract. Their Super Bowl window is now because you got all that money. So you got veterans like Azier, like a Danico. They want to go down there, play with their coach because they're closer to winning the Super Bowl than the Titans are, and they rebuild.
That's true.
Yeah, and Daniel Hunter. So you got a lot of guys going there for the coach, like you said.
Yep.
The money that's available, and their windows now. And man, it's gonna be tough. The division just got a little tougher. It's got a little tougher.
Yeah.
So.
My whole thing about it, everybody, you talk about the rebuild and everything and all that. Again, like I told you guys, we're back to where I was in 2016. Just be competitive, man. Just don't go in there and get boat raced in every game. Because I've seen that plenty of times. So be competitive, make a challenging game out of it. We're probably going to lose more than we win, but at least we're competing and we're playing hard, and something may happen. The youth may betray us, or a penalty, or just a bad play, or something like that. But be competitive is my biggest concern with this team right now.
Yeah. So Boston Titan, I think our kick return is going to be Jackson, man. He's healthy. Receiver out of Georgia from last year.
I think he gets a chance.
He got put on IR. We never saw him again. So I think he's, when he was in there, he was great as the punt return. I think you see him as kick returner as well. And they probably bring somebody in as an undrafted free agent. I don't think they put Pollard back there.
No.
But yeah, we'll see what they do there. But man, again, thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Di, we were surprised too about Danico. He played well. I hate to see him go, but he got paid. He got paid at this point in his career. I'm sure they were offering him more than what Rand was going to give to Nico. And so, I mean, it makes sense, right? He goes to a place to where he could possibly be contending for a Super Bowl in Houston. They're the sexy pick right now. A lot of people are riding high after their offseason they've had so far.
Yeah.
And plus how they finished last year. And so, I mean, it is what it is at that point. And I understand why he left. Not mad, but I wish he would have stayed because he been balling for the last 12 sacks last year.
Been here.
Right.
But you gotta like Archer though, man. This is what the third AFC South team he's gone to.
Everybody but Jacksonville.
Everybody but Jacksonville, man.
Everybody but Jacksonville.
Yeah,
man.
that's funny to me. So, but I mean, we're gonna see him and everything, and he's a solid player. So yeah, that was one we hated to see go.
Yeah.
Just by the way he's played again, it goes back to what they're gonna do and bringing in players to play with Big Jeff.
Yeah, that was one that when the contract first came out, I was going to go question Rand because it said $10 million, but they didn't put $10 million per. Because if it was just 2 years at 10, I was like, hey, wait a minute, you could have got him for 5, but I think he got 2 year, $20 million, about at least half of it guaranteed. That's when you're talking about a 34-year-old D tackle on a team. I really feel like, and this is where, and again, this is my opinion from just hearing things about Rand. I feel like everybody says he's a good relationship builder. And people personally, you see that with some of the folks that they brought in. I think some of these guys, he probably was honest with them about not re-signing and for them to go get a chance at winning something. I think about they had a conversation with Danico.
Oh, yeah.
They probably had a conversation with Azeez. That's the only reason he came here last year. But I think he was honest on where this team is this year as opposed to go get your money and see if the contender is going to pay you a little bit more and you got a shot at a ring.
Right. Dion says, think about us with an X factor in the AFC South, changing identity and loading up on weapons to run the offense through the QE. Teams ain't ready for that. Yeah, nobody's seen it yet, so we'll see. Ricky Smith says, do you believe as some of the pundit that AFC South has moved due to free agency from the cellar to the dogs in the NFL? I think it's definitely moved up. For sure.
I think the AFC South, if things turn out like it should on paper, it's 2 years away from being probably one of the most competitive the divisions in the league because you got all young quarterbacks. I think the senior quarterback of the class now is Sunshine.
Yeah, it is.
Down in Jacksonville.
Right.
It's going to be interesting with that because again, probably the most competitive division in the AFC is the North now.
Easily, gosh.
Yeah, no doubt. You got 4 teams in the playoffs.
You got 4 teams in the playoffs, so you'll see that. But it's going to be interesting to see how the AFC South washes out. Again, right now you got to, and I'm gonna be honest with you, just based on their defense alone, you got to consider Houston to be in the front runner over Jacksonville, and then you got Jacksonville, and then you possibly have either us or the Colts. And I'm not sure about the Colts yet because the jury's still out on Richardson, so I'm not sure about that one yet.
Eddie Gray says, "Why sign Mason Rudolph though? He's not even a decent backup. So he bring in for competition, right?" He's better than Malik is at this point, right? And so we'll see what happens.
And then who better to bring him in than a coaching staff that was in the same division with him?
Right.
Yeah,
they
seen him twice a year.
So
right.
I mean, I get it. I think he's serviceable enough. And again, if I'm not mistaken, he won a couple games for Pittsburgh. May have had
he did.
Yeah,
Matter of fact, they were happy.
3 straight.
The team was happy when he came out on the field because he kept Pickett on the bench.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He was throwing the ball. So he's serviceable enough with. I'm not going to complain on any QB they bring in here just because I saw what Callahan and this staff and that Bengals staff did with that backup that they had after Joe Burrow went down. So I think you've got the right coaching staff to bring in a QB of a Mason Rudolph caliber.
And again, like I said earlier, you got to look at him in the same, really in almost the same vein like you would Neil O'Donnell back in the day when we had Steve McNair. Yeah. He's just going to be a solid backup that can run your offense. Mm-hmm. And again, with like you said, Jay Lou, the coaching staff that we got and the way they like to work with different quarterbacks and how they try to schedule how to make their offense fit the quarterback and everything that's going to be starting. So I think you'll see something a lot better than possibly than even what you saw him do in Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah.
Again, man, thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Eddie Arnett G with Jay Lou, man. Check us out, man. Next time we'll give you notifications. Make sure your notifications are on. Somebody joined us tonight, said they didn't get notified of the show coming on, man, that they have issues. You too. Go in there and turn on your notification for the show so you'll be reminded. Also hit that like button, man, if you will. Also, if you're on Facebook, man, look for those notifications to come out across all the streamings, Twitch. We on X as well. So just look out for the shows, man. They'll be out there. And thank y'all again for joining us. All the comments, all the questions. Be back, man, as things start to unfold of the rest of this 2024 offseason. We're approaching the draft quickly. This wasn't me this time. There you go, Dion. I appreciate it, man. Hey, I wasn't even going to say that to you, brother. I'm just glad you're here tonight. Man, tighten up, man. We out of here.